Chosen one, what you're about to discover will fundamentally shift your understanding of everything that's been happening behind the scenes, because right now, in this exact moment, someone who wronged you is experiencing something so profound, so undeniable, so absolutely devastating that they can no longer pretend karma is just a comforting story people tell themselves. They laughed when you talked about universal justice. They rolled their eyes when you mentioned divine retribution. They mocked the very idea that actions have consequences beyond what human courts can deliver. They called it superstition, wishful thinking, fantasy created by people too weak to get their own revenge. They operated with complete confidence that they would never face consequences for what they did to you. They moved through their days believing they had gotten away with it, that their betrayal would remain unpunished, that their cruelty would go unanswered, that their manipulation would never catch up with them. They slept peacefully at night, convinced that karma was just a myth, a fairy tale, a concept without teeth, a story without substance. They thought they were untouchable, beyond the reach of cosmic justice, exempt from the laws that govern spiritual cause and effect. But karma isn't mythology. It isn't wishful thinking. It isn't a comforting story told by victims who can't fight back. Karma is law, as real and as inevitable as gravity, as certain as sunrise, as inescapable as death. And right now, karma has arrived at their door with a knock so loud it's shaking the foundations of everything they built on lies, on betrayal, on the pain they caused you without a second thought, without a moment of remorse, without any consideration that their actions were being recorded in a ledger they didn't believe existed. Tonight, you're going to understand exactly what's happening to those who wronged you. You're going to see why someone who laughed at the concept of karma is now begging for mercy from the very forces they denied. You're going to witness what divine justice looks like when it arrives with perfect timing, with devastating accuracy, with consequences so precisely calibrated to the offense that even skeptics have to acknowledge something beyond coincidence is at work. This isn't just bad luck. This isn't random misfortune. This is karma executing its judgment with the precision of a surgeon and the force of a hurricane. While you were healing from what they did to you, while you were picking up the pieces of what they shattered, while you were rebuilding your life from the rubble they created, they were out there living their best life. Or so they thought. They appeared to be thriving. They seemed to be winning. They looked like they had escaped all consequences for their actions. They upgraded their lifestyle. They celebrated their success. They posted their highlights on social media like everything was perfect. They smiled in photos while carrying darkness in their souls. They projected happiness while hosting guilt they refused to acknowledge. But appearances deceive. Success can be a mirage. What looks like winning can actually be the setup for a fall so spectacular that everyone watching will remember it forever. Because while they were out there pretending everything was fine, karma was working behind the scenes. Cosmic justice was building its case. Divine retribution was gathering evidence, documenting every lie, recording every betrayal, noting every moment of cruelty, preparing a judgment so comprehensive, so thorough, so absolutely devastating that when it finally arrived, there would be no room for denial, no space for excuses, no possibility of claiming innocence. Karma doesn't rush. That's what they didn't understand. They thought that because consequences didn't arrive immediately, they never would. They interpreted delay as escape. They mistook patience for absence. They confused divine timing with divine indifference. But karma has its own schedule, its own timeline, its own perfect moment for revealing truth and delivering justice. It waits until the person who wronged you has convinced themselves they got away with it, until they've relaxed into a false sense of security, until they've built new relationships and new opportunities on the foundation of what they stole from you. And then it strikes, not gradually, not subtly, not in ways they can explain away as coincidence or bad luck. Karma arrives like a tsunami after the water recedes, like lightning after the silence. like Judgment Day after a lifetime of denial. It comes with such force, such totality, such undeniable precision that the person experiencing it knows exactly why it's happening. They can feel the connection between what they're enduring now and what they did to you then. They can trace the line between their current suffering and their past cruelty. They know, even if they won't admit it out loud, even if they try to maintain their denial to others, they know in the depths of their soul that karma is real and it has finally caught up with them. Let me tell you what's happening to them right now, because understanding their current state will help you recognize that justice is being served even when you can't see it directly. There's someone who betrayed you in a way that cut deep, who violated your trust in a manner that left scars you're still healing from, who took something from you that can never be fully restored. This person is experiencing betrayal in their own life now, and it's coming from a direction they never expected, from someone they trusted completely, from a relationship they thought was unshakable. The universe has perfect symmetry. What you send out returns. The betrayal they inflicted on you is now manifesting in their own experience, but amplified, intensified, more painful than what they did to you, because karma doesn't just return what you gave, it returns it with interest, with multiplication, with a severity that matches not just the action, but the intention behind it. They're feeling what you felt when they betrayed you, experiencing the shock, the disbelief, the devastating realization that someone you trusted could hurt you so deeply, so deliberately, so completely. And in their pain, in their confusion, in their desperate search for understanding why this is happening to them, they think about you. They remember what they did. They recall the moment they chose betrayal over loyalty, lies over truth, cruelty over compassion. And somewhere in the part of their consciousness they try to ignore, they know this isn't coincidence. They know this is karma. They know the universe is showing them exactly what they did to you by making them live it themselves. There's another person who spread lies about you, who damaged your reputation with false narratives, who turned people against you with manufactured stories, who destroyed relationships you valued by poisoning minds with fiction. This person's reputation is now being demolished by rumors and lies they can't trace back to a source. Stories spreading faster than they can deny them. False narratives taking root in people's minds despite their protests of innocence. The very weapon they used against you has been turned against them, and they're discovering how helpless it feels, how frustrating it is, how devastating it becomes when lies travel faster than truth. They're calling people, trying to explain, trying to defend themselves, trying to set the record straight, and they're meeting the same skepticism, the same doubt, the same willingness to believe the worst that they created around you. They're experiencing the isolation of being falsely accused, the pain of watching people believe lies about them, the helplessness of being unable to stop the spread of false information. And in those moments when they're alone with their thoughts, when they can't sleep because their mind won't stop racing, when anxiety grips their chest and won't let go, they remember you. They remember doing this exact thing to you. They remember how they spread those lies with such ease, such confidence, such complete disregard for the damage they were causing. And karma whispers in their ear, "Now you know how it feels. Now you understand what you did. Now you're living the consequences of the pain you inflicted so casually, so carelessly, so cruelly." Then there's the person who stole from you. Maybe it was money they never repaid. Maybe it was an opportunity they took credit for. Maybe it was a relationship they undermined and then claimed as their own. Maybe it was time and energy you invested that they exploited without gratitude or acknowledgement. Whatever they stole, karma is collecting the debt now, and the interest rate is devastating. They're experiencing loss in their own life, sudden and unexplained disappearance of things they valued, resources draining away faster than they can account for, opportunities evaporating at the last moment just when success seemed guaranteed. Money is vanishing from their accounts in ways that don't add up. Deals are falling through after everything seemed perfect. Relationships are ending without clear explanation. Things they thought were solid are revealed to be built on sand. And the amount they're losing, the value of what's being taken from them, it's not equal to what they stole from you. It's multiplied. Because karma doesn't just take back what was stolen, it extracts payment for the suffering caused, compensation for the time you lost recovering, interest for the delay between the theft and the restoration. They're panicking now. They're scrambling to make sense of why everything is falling apart. They're trying to fix problems that multiply faster than they can solve them. They're watching their carefully constructed life crumble like a sandcastle hit by a wave. And in their desperation, in their fear, in their growing awareness that something beyond normal bad luck is happening, they remember you. They remember what they took. They remember how they justified it to themselves, how they rationalized their theft, how they convinced themselves you wouldn't miss it or didn't deserve it or had so much that losing some wouldn't matter. And now, as they watch their own life hemorrhaging value, as they experience the pain of loss, as they feel the desperation of watching things slip through their fingers no matter how hard they try to hold on, they understand. They understand that karma is real. They understand that debt always comes due. They understand that what you take from others will be taken from you, with interest, with perfect timing, with divine justice that cannot be escaped. But here's what makes karma so absolutely perfect in its execution, so precise in its justice, so devastating in its delivery. It doesn't just return the same action, it returns the same feeling. It doesn't just create similar circumstances, it recreates the exact emotional experience. The person who made you feel worthless is now feeling worthless. The person who made you feel abandoned is now experiencing abandonment. The person who made you doubt yourself is now drowning in self-doubt. The person who made you feel powerless is now discovering what true powerlessness feels like. Karma isn't satisfied with surface-level justice. It goes deeper, targeting the emotional core of what they did to you, ensuring they don't just experience similar circumstances but feel the exact feelings they caused you to feel. This is why their suffering is so profound, why their pain is so intense, why their consequences are so devastating. They're not just dealing with external circumstances changing. They're being forced to inhabit the emotional landscape they created for you, to live in the psychological space they trapped you in, to experience the spiritual darkness they cast over your life. And this emotional mirroring, this precise replication of feeling, this is what finally breaks through their denial, because they can't dismiss it as coincidence when the feelings are too specific, too familiar, too perfectly aligned with what they know they made you feel. They can try to explain away circumstances as bad luck. They can attempt to rationalize events as unfortunate timing. But they can't escape the recognition of emotions, the knowing that what they're feeling inside is exactly what they forced you to feel. The undeniable awareness that karma has delivered justice not just in action but in experience. Let me tell you about the stages they go through as karma arrives at their door. Because understanding this process will help you recognize it when you see evidence of it in their lives. First comes denial. When the first consequences arrive, they dismiss them as coincidence, as bad luck, as random misfortune that has nothing to do with anything they've done. They tell themselves this is just life, just a rough patch, just temporary difficulty that everyone experiences. They maintain their belief that karma is myth, that there's no cosmic justice, that they've gotten away with what they did to you. But then more consequences arrive, and more, and more. The coincidences pile up until they can no longer be dismissed as random. The misfortunes multiply until bad luck becomes clearly inadequate as an explanation. The problems compound until they can no longer maintain the fiction that this is just normal life difficulty. And denial begins to crack, begins to show fissures, begins to crumble under the weight of undeniable patterns, unmistakable connections, obvious correlations between what they did and what they're experiencing. Next comes anger. When denial fails, when they can no longer pretend this is just bad luck, they get angry. Angry at the universe for being unfair. Angry at God for punishing them. Angry at karma for existing when they convinced themselves it didn't. Angry at you for somehow causing this, as if you had the power to curse them, as if your victimhood gave you supernatural abilities to invoke justice. They rage against the consequences they're facing. They fight against the reality they're experiencing. They resist the justice that's being delivered with every fiber of their being. But anger doesn't stop karma. Rage doesn't reverse consequences. Fighting doesn't prevent justice from unfolding. If anything, their anger amplifies their suffering. Their resistance creates more pain. Their refusal to accept what's happening generates additional torment. They're like someone struggling in quicksand, each movement of resistance pulling them deeper, each act of defiance accelerating their descent, each moment of anger tightening the grip of consequences around their life. Then comes bargaining. When anger fails to stop what's happening, they try to negotiate with the universe. They start praying to gods they didn't believe in. They make promises to change if only the consequences will stop. They try to do good deeds as if they can balance the scales, as if a few acts of kindness now can erase the cruelty they showed you then. They reach out to spiritual practitioners, seeking rituals or spells or prayers that will break what they now believe is a curse. Not understanding that karma isn't a curse that can be broken, but a law that must run its course. They might even try to reach out to you, crafting apologies that sound sincere but are really just attempts to stop their suffering. Expressions of regret that are motivated not by genuine remorse but by desperate hope that making peace with you will make karma release its grip. But karma doesn't work that way. Divine justice isn't a machine that stops when you press the right button. Cosmic law doesn't halt its execution because someone finally decides to say sorry after being caught in consequences they can no longer deny. After bargaining comes depression, when they realize nothing they do stops what's happening, when they understand that karma will run its full course regardless of their prayers or promises or apologies. They sink into despair. The weight of what they did finally hits them. The reality of who they've been crashes down on their consciousness. The truth about the pain they caused becomes undeniable even to themselves. And in this depression, in this darkness, they finally begin to feel genuine remorse. Not the strategic apology designed to stop their suffering, but actual regret for the pain they caused you. But even this genuine remorse doesn't stop karma's course. Divine justice must be satisfied. Cosmic debt must be paid. The scales must balance. Their suffering must equal at minimum the suffering they caused you, and often it must exceed it because the universe factors in not just the action but the intention, not just the harm caused, but the pleasure they took in causing it. Not just the pain inflicted, but the lack of remorse they showed when they had the chance to make it right. Finally comes acceptance. When they've been through denial, anger, bargaining, and depression, when they've exhausted every attempt to escape or stop or negotiate with karma, they finally accept what's happening. They acknowledge that karma is real. They admit that they're experiencing consequences for their actions. They recognize that divine justice exists and has found them. They understand that the universe maintains balance, and they upset that balance when they wronged you. And now balance is being restored through their suffering. This acceptance doesn't make their pain go away, but it changes the quality of their suffering. They stop fighting what's happening and start learning from it. They stop resisting consequences and start understanding why those consequences are necessary. They stop seeing themselves as victims of unfair cosmic punishment and start recognizing themselves as recipients of just correction for unjust actions. And in this acceptance, strange as it sounds, they finally begin the real work of transformation that might eventually lead to actual healing and genuine change. But let's be clear about something important. Their acceptance, their transformation, their eventual healing, none of that is your responsibility or your concern. Your job isn't to monitor their journey through karma's consequences. Your job isn't to track their progress through the stages of recognition and acceptance. Your job isn't to decide when they've suffered enough or learned enough or changed enough. That's between them and the universe. That's between them and divine justice. That's between them and the cosmic forces administering correction. Your job is to heal yourself, to rebuild your own life, to focus on your own elevation and transformation. Your job is to recognize that justice is being served even when you can't see every detail of how it's happening. To trust that karma is real even when you're not witnessing every consequence directly. To know that the universe maintains balance even when your human eyes can't perceive all the mechanisms of that balancing. Your job is to let go of the need for revenge because karma handles that more effectively than you ever could. To release the desire to see their suffering because knowing that justice is being served is enough. To move forward with your life while trusting that they're receiving exactly what they've earned through their actions. Here's something profound you need to understand about karma's timing. It arrives at exactly the right moment for maximum impact, for deepest learning, for most effective correction. Early in their wrongdoing, when they first hurt you, immediate consequences wouldn't have had the same effect. They would have dismissed them, explained them away, failed to connect action and consequence. But karma waited. It waited until they built a life on the foundation of what they took from you. It waited until they convinced themselves they had gotten away with it. It waited until they relaxed into false security, until they forgot to look over their shoulder, until they stopped expecting consequences. And then it struck. At the moment when they had the most to lose. At the time when consequences would hurt the most. At the instant when they were least prepared to handle the collapse. This isn't cruelty, this is pedagogy. This is the universe teaching in the most effective way possible, delivering lessons that will actually create change, administering correction that will genuinely transform behavior. Because consequences that arrive when someone has nothing to lose don't teach anything. But consequences that arrive when someone has everything to lose, those consequences create learning that lasts, transformation that endures, change that persists. Think about it from a teaching perspective. If karma had struck immediately when they first wronged you, before they had invested in the life built on that wrongdoing, they could have walked away relatively unscathed. They could have pivoted, adjusted, rebuilt quickly without significant loss. The lesson would have been shallow, the correction superficial, the transformation temporary. But karma waited until they had built extensively on that flawed foundation, until they had invested deeply in the life created through wrongdoing, until they had committed fully to the path that started with harming you. Now, when karma arrives, it doesn't just knock them down. It demolishes everything they built on the foundation of their wrongdoing. It doesn't just create setbacks, it dismantles the entire structure of lies and theft and betrayal they constructed. It doesn't just cause pain. It forces complete reconstruction from the ground up, this time without the poison materials they used before, this time without the stolen resources they built with previously, this time without the shortcuts they took at your expense. This is why their collapse is so total, why their suffering is so comprehensive, why their consequences are so devastating. Because karma isn't just punishing them. It's forcing them to start over with nothing, the way you had to start over with nothing after they destroyed what you had built. It's making them rebuild from zero the way you had to rebuild from zero after they stole what you had created. It's requiring them to begin again with no advantages. The way you had to begin again with no advantages after they took everything from you. The symmetry is perfect. The justice is complete. The balance is being restored not just in external circumstances but in internal experience, not just in material consequences but in spiritual correction, not just in what they have but in who they're forced to become through the process of losing everything they built on a foundation of wrongdoing. Now let's talk about the specific ways karma manifests in different areas of their life, because understanding this will help you recognize it when you see evidence of divine justice at work. In relationships, karma returns the exact betrayals they committed. If they stole your partner, watch their current partner leave them for someone else in a way that mirrors what they did to you. If they spread lies that turned friends against you, watch their own friendships dissolve under the weight of suspicion and distrust. If they abandoned you when you needed support, watch them experience abandonment when they most need help. The universe uses relationships as a primary vehicle for karmic education because relationships are where we cause each other the deepest wounds and where we can experience the most profound healing. Relationship karma is precise, specific, targeted. It recreates not just similar situations but equivalent emotional experiences. The person who made you feel unloved will experience feeling unloved. The person who made you feel betrayed will experience betrayal. The person who made you feel abandoned will experience abandonment. And in experiencing these feelings, they finally understand what they did to you. They finally comprehend the depth of pain they caused. They finally recognize the severity of their actions. In career and finances, karma manifests as loss of opportunity, drain of resources, collapse of ventures built on stolen ideas or unethical practices. If they advance their career by taking credit for your work, watch their career stall or reverse as their incompetence becomes visible without your contributions to hide it. If they built their business on ideas or resources stolen from you, watch that business face sudden problems that seem to come from nowhere. Financial difficulties that defy explanation, obstacles that multiply faster than they can overcome them. Financial karma is particularly visible because money is tangible, measurable, trackable. You can see wealth disappear. You can watch accounts drain. You can observe opportunities evaporate. And when financial karma strikes someone who wronged you, it often manifests in ways that are publicly visible, that others can witness, that become part of the narrative others tell about this person's downfall. This public aspect of financial karma serves a dual purpose. It corrects the wrongdoer through loss, and it vindicates you through visible evidence of justice being served. In health, karma can manifest as stress-related illnesses, mysterious symptoms that doctors struggle to diagnose, chronic conditions that develop without clear medical cause. The body keeps score. The physical form registers spiritual debt. When someone carries the weight of unpaid karmic debt, when they host the guilt of unpunished wrongdoing, when they maintain the burden of unacknowledged harm they caused, it manifests in their physical form. Headaches that won't respond to treatment. Digestive issues without clear cause. Sleep disturbances that persist despite all interventions. Anxiety that medication can't fully control. These aren't psychosomatic symptoms, though they have psychological components. They're physical manifestations of spiritual debt, bodily expressions of cosmic correction, somatic evidence of karmic balancing. The person who wronged you might not connect their current health struggles to what they did to you years ago. But their body knows, their nervous system remembers. Their cells carry the record of wrongdoing, and karma uses physical discomfort as one mechanism of correction, one tool of teaching, one vehicle for transformation. In peace of mind, karma manifests as loss of inner calm. persistent anxiety, inability to relax even in comfortable circumstances, constant vigilance against threats they can't identify. The person who wronged you might have material success, might maintain external appearances of thriving, might show no obvious signs of struggle to outside observers. But inside they're tormented. Inside they're suffering. Inside they're experiencing a chaos and turmoil that no external success can quiet, that no material comfort can soothe, that no achievement can resolve. This internal torment, this loss of peace, this psychological suffering, this is often the most severe form of karmic consequence because it's inescapable. You can lose money and make more. You can lose relationships and form new ones. You can lose opportunities and find others, but you can't escape your own mind. You can't run from your own consciousness. You can't hide from your own knowing that you've done wrong and that consequences are coming or have already arrived. The person who wronged you might appear fine on the surface. They might smile in photos. They might celebrate successes. They might project happiness and confidence. But watch their eyes. Notice the tension in their body. Observe how they startle at unexpected sounds. Pay attention to how they react to mentions of karma, justice, or divine retribution. You'll see evidence of the internal war they're fighting, the psychological battle they're losing, the spiritual torment they're enduring, even as they try to maintain external composure. Now let's address something important about your role in all of this. You might be tempted to feel satisfaction in their suffering, to take pleasure in their consequences, to celebrate their downfall. And I understand that temptation. After what they did to you, after the pain they caused, after the damage they inflicted, it's human to want them to hurt the way they hurt you, to want them to suffer the way they made you suffer, to want them to experience consequences for actions they seem to commit with impunity. But here's what you need to understand. Your elevation, your healing, your transformation, it isn't tied to their downfall. Your peace doesn't require their suffering. Your success doesn't depend on their failure. Your happiness isn't contingent on their misery. Divine justice is being served whether you witness it or not, whether you think about it or not, whether you celebrate it or not. Karma is executing its judgment independent of your attention, your awareness, or your approval. The healthiest thing you can do is release them entirely from your consciousness, not because they deserve your forgiveness or your grace or your mercy, but because carrying them in your mind, tracking their downfall, monitoring their consequences, it keeps you energetically connected to them. It maintains a cord between your energy field and theirs. It ties your emotional state to their circumstances, and that connection, however satisfying it might feel in the short term to know they're suffering, that connection ultimately drains your energy and delays your complete healing. You deserve to be so elevated, so blessed, so immersed in your own abundant life that you forget they exist. You deserve to be so focused on your own growth and transformation that you have no mental space left to track their decline. You deserve to be so happy, so peaceful, so fulfilled that their suffering or lack thereof becomes completely irrelevant to your emotional state. This is true freedom. This is complete liberation. This is total victory. When you reach the point where you genuinely don't care what's happening to them, where you feel neither satisfaction in their suffering nor concern for their well-being, where they simply don't occupy space in your consciousness anymore, that's when you know you've fully healed. That's when you know karma has done its work, not just in correcting them, but in freeing you. That's when you know divine justice has been served not just through their consequences, but through your liberation from needing to know about those consequences. But until you reach that point, if you're still healing, if you're still processing what they did to you, if you're still recovering from the damage they caused, it's okay to take some comfort in knowing that karma is real and they will face consequences. It's okay to find some peace in understanding that justice is being served even if human courts failed to deliver it. It's okay to feel some relief in recognizing that the universe maintains balance. and their actions upset that balance in ways that must be and are being corrected. Just don't let that comfort become obsession. Don't let that peace become fixation. Don't let that relief become addiction to tracking their downfall. Take what you need for your healing, the reassurance that justice exists and is being served, and then redirect your focus to your own life, your own growth, your own transformation, your own elevation, your own destiny. That has nothing to do with them and everything to do with who you're becoming through the process of surviving what they did to you. Here's what I want you to understand about the ultimate purpose of karma. It isn't primarily about punishment, though correction is part of its function. It isn't mainly about revenge, though justice is one of its outcomes. The ultimate purpose of karma is balance, restoration of equilibrium, return to harmony. The universe operates on principles of balance. What goes up must come down. What goes out must come back. What is taken must be returned. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed. When someone wrongs you, they create imbalance. They take energy from you without giving equivalent exchange. They cause you suffering that disturbs the cosmic equilibrium. They upset the natural harmony of mutual respect and reciprocal kindness that should characterize human interaction. This imbalance cannot persist. The universe cannot maintain systems in permanent disequilibrium. Correction must occur. Balance must be restored. Harmony must return. Karma is the mechanism of that restoration. It isn't vindictive, it isn't cruel, it isn't punishment for punishment's sake. It's correction, realignment, rebalancing. It returns to the wrongdoer the energy they took from you. It gives them the experience they gave you. It teaches them the lesson they failed to learn when they chose wrongdoing over right action. And through this process of correction, balance is restored not just between you and them, but in the larger cosmic system of which you're both part. This understanding should bring you peace, because it means karma isn't personal. It isn't about your need for revenge being satisfied. It isn't about your desire for their suffering being fulfilled. It's about universal law being executed, cosmic balance being maintained, divine order being preserved. It would happen whether you wanted it or not, whether you asked for it or not, whether you believed in it or not. Because karma isn't about you or them individually, it's about the functioning of the universe itself, the maintenance of systems, the preservation of order. And this is why karma is inevitable. This is why no one escapes it. This is why even people who seem to get away with wrongdoing for years or decades eventually face consequences. Because the universe doesn't forget. Cosmic law doesn't expire. Divine justice doesn't have a statute of limitations. The debt remains on the books until it's paid. The imbalance persists until it's corrected. The disruption continues until harmony is restored. So yes, they thought karma was a myth. They believed divine justice was fairy tale. They convinced themselves that consequences were avoidable. They operated as if universal law didn't apply to them. They lived as if cosmic balance wasn't real. But karma knocked on their door anyway. Divine justice found them regardless. Consequences arrived despite their disbelief. Because karma doesn't require belief to function. It doesn't need faith to operate. It doesn't depend on acknowledgement to execute its judgment. Gravity works whether you believe in it or not. The sun rises whether you acknowledge it or not. Your heart beats whether you're aware of it or not. And karma delivers consequences whether you accept its reality or not. The person who wronged you is learning this lesson now, experiencing this truth directly, discovering through painful experience that karma isn't myth but law, isn't story but reality, isn't comfort but certainty. And you, chosen one, you can rest in this knowledge. You can find peace in this truth. You can release the burden of needing personal revenge because cosmic revenge is being delivered more effectively than you could ever manage. You can let go of the desire to see their suffering because divine justice is administering correction whether you witness it or not. You can move forward with your life, focus on your healing, invest in your growth, commit to your transformation, knowing that the universe has your back, that divine forces are fighting for you, that cosmic law is being executed on your behalf. They thought karma was a myth until it knocked on their door. Now they know better. Now they understand. Now they believe. But that's their journey, their lesson, their transformation to complete or fail to complete. Your journey is different. Your lesson is about rising after falling, about healing after being wounded, about thriving after surviving. Your transformation is about becoming stronger through adversity, wiser through pain, more powerful through the experience of being wronged and choosing to respond with dignity rather than descent into their level of consciousness. Let karma handle them. Let divine justice correct them. Let the universe balance the scales. Your job is to become so elevated, so blessed, so abundant, so fulfilled that you're living proof that wronging the chosen carries consequences not just for the wrongdoer, but blessings for the wronged. Your job is to rise so high that your elevation becomes its own form of justice. Your success becomes its own vindication. Your happiness becomes its own evidence that evil doesn't win, that darkness doesn't triumph, that those who harm the innocent don't get the final word. They thought karma was a myth until it knocked on their door. But you always knew better, didn't you? You always understood that the universe maintains balance. You always believed that justice would be served even when human systems failed to deliver it. You always trusted that consequences would arrive even when they seemed to be getting away with their wrongdoing. And now you're being proven right. Now your faith is being vindicated. Now your trust is being validated. So walk forward into your destiny with your head held high, knowing that karma is real, divine justice is certain, and no one who wrongs the chosen escapes the consequences of that choice. Walk forward knowing that you don't need to fight your battles because the universe fights them for you. Walk forward knowing that you don't need to seek revenge because karma delivers it more effectively than you ever could. Walk forward knowing that you're protected, defended, backed by forces that never lose, that never forget, that never fail to balance the scales and restore cosmic order. They thought karma was a myth. They were wrong. And their wrongness about that is costing them everything, while your rightness about it is restoring everything they tried to take from you. That's how divine justice works. That's how cosmic balance functions. That's how the universe maintains order. And that's why you can rest easy tonight, knowing that all is being made right, that justice is being served, that karma knocked on their door and is collecting every debt they owe.